परमे आनन्दमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे So we'll begin with a story. There was once Narad asked Vishnu that tell me the power of the Lord's name. So Vishnu had his own way of teaching Narad. So he told Narad, Narad, there's a butterfly over there. Go and say Narayan to it. So Narad did as Vishnu says. He went to the butterfly and he said Narayan to it. The butterfly died. So then he comes back and said, I didn't understand. So Vishnu says, Narad, there's a cow over there. Go and say Narayan to the cow. So he goes to the cow and says Narayan, and the cow also died. So Narad comes totally puzzled to Vishnu and said, Vishnu says, Narad, look, in that palace there's a newborn child to the king. The queen has given birth to a child. Go and say Narayan to the child. And this time Narad was really scared, because if the child dies, but Vishnu said, just go Narad, trust me. So Narad goes. Sure enough, the child dies. But next minute, a very handsome 10-year-old lad comes and tells Narad that I must thank you so much, because I was a butterfly, and when you said Narayan to me, you fast forwarded my evolution. I became a cow. Then when you said to the cow, I was born a human. Then when you said to the human, I became a boy. So of course this is a story, but that tells you how powerful the Lord's name is. And if you take the story further into your life, if you take the Lord's name, recognizing that everything is the Lord, then how much more powerful the whole thing becomes, isn't it? Because when I heard this story, I had started getting a knee pain because of certain things, postures I'd done. So the story was playing in my head. So I said that if a butterfly can become a cow, when you say Narayan to it, if I keep saying Ma Shri Aurobindo into my knee, recognizing that the pain in the knee is also mother, and I did it with that feeling that this is also mother, and I sat in the sun and I did it for 10 minutes with my hand on the knee, the pain was gone and it never came back. So it reinforced to me that if you recognize something as being what it is at source divine, at source just that, then the best in that thing comes forward. Mother has said, no, if you approach the vilest person, anchored in the highest in you, the highest in the person is bound to come out. That's true for anything. All matter is divine, right? And if you address the divine in the matter, however veiled, is obliged to come forward. And that's where healing happens, right? Because it's beautifully said that every healing is necessarily coming closer to God. Such a beautiful line. Anytime you heal anything, you come closer to the truth, because nothing can really heal from the source unless it comes closer to its source, which is the truth, right? So you all should try it. I tried it on my knee. You can try it on anyone who you find upsetting, like Narad said that to the butterfly. You can just see that person and actually think, whoever you believe in, Mother, Shri Aurobindo, whatever, see that person, see Mother Shri Aurobindo in that person, and keep saying the person's name, keep saying Mother Shri Aurobindo's name looking at that person, and see what happens. There's a great magic in the Lord's name. Now we come to the PDF. Mother's words. To find the soul, you must go like this, gesture of plunging, like this, draw back from the surface, dive deep and enter, go down, down, down into a deep hole, very deep, silent, immobile, and there is a kind of something warm, quiet, rich in substance and very still, very full, like a sense of sweetness. That is the soul. And if you persist and are conscious, then there comes a kind of plenitude that gives the feeling of something complete and containing unfathomable depths, in which, should you enter, you feel that many secrets would be revealed, like the reflection in very peaceful waters of something eternal. And you no longer feel limited by time. You have the impression that you have always been and will be for eternity. That is when you have touched the core of the soul. So the mother says a sure indication of touching the psychic being or the soul is a feeling that you've always been and always will be, a feeling of eternity. And if the contact has been conscious and complete enough, it liberates you from bondage to outer forms. You no longer feel that you live only because you have a body. That is usually the normal sensation of the human being, to be so tied to this outer form that when I think of myself, I think of the body. That is the normal thing. The reality of the person is the reality of the body. Only when one has made an effort for inner development and tried to find something a little more stable in one's being, can one begin to feel that this something, which is permanently conscious through all ages and all change, must be myself. So the mother says that the moment you come in contact with your soul, you have a sense of eternity, like you've always been and you will always be. And along with that, there comes a disidentification with the body. Why do we get so perturbed when things go wrong with the body, because we feel the body is me. We might have read that I'm more than my body, but basically there's a feeling that the body is me, and anything that threatens something I'm so identified with frightens me. But if I touch my soul, automatically I know that I'm not only the body, I'm an infinite more beyond the body. So automatically I'm not so affected by what happens to my body, right? I'm not so scared by every little bleep that comes up in the body. Behind the whole creation, Mother says, I'm speaking of the material creation, there is a perfect silence, which is not the opposite of noise, but a positive silence. And it is at the same time a complete immobility. That is very good as an antidote to disorder. But so Mother saying that behind all creation, that is even behind the matter of your body. Quantum physics will tell you, right, that your body is energy which is moving so fast that it appears to be solid. But behind all this movement, there is a silence. And quantum physics calls that stability the unified field, right? You've heard of the unified field theory from which everything arises. So interesting that Sri Aurobindo says that both science and spirituality are searching for God, but while the former doesn't acknowledge it, the latter does. Science is searching for truth, right? And truth is God. So both are really, that's why somewhere both science and spirituality are more and more converging to the same conclusion. So there is a perfect silence, which is not the opposite of noise, but a positive silence. And it is at the same time a complete immobility. That is very good as an antidote to disorder. So Mother is saying if something's paining and you can tune into the silence behind the pain dissolves. In simple words, it's bringing the witness consciousness forward, right? If the witness comes forward and you can actually watch the pain, feeling yourself outside the pain, then often the pain dissolves. But the sense of eternity, so silence is good, it's a good antidote to disorder, but the sense of eternity is still better and has a sweetness that is not there in the other. In the other is in the silence. The sense of eternity includes also the sense of sweetness, but not sweetness as we understand it. So I think Mother is referring to pure Sakshi Bhav, the witness, versus the psychic. The psychic brings a sense of eternity and a sweetness which is not there in the pure Sakshi Bhav. It is extremely comfortable when you feel the sweetness, that is, there is no reason why it should change or cease or start again. It is like that, it is perfect in itself. So the psychic, see, any form dissolves because it sort of becomes uninhabitable, right? So it will dissolve and something else will start. But psychic is such a perfection in itself, it's extremely comfortable. There is no reason why it should change or cease or start again. It is like that, it is perfect in itself, so it doesn't need to die, that's why it's eternal. And these are the best antidotes to the other state of disorder, peace. Simple peace is not always enough. So the psychic getting involved in the healing makes the healing much faster. The body is most unconscious, or rather subconscious. It has to be made conscious. And somebody asked Mother, how do we make it conscious? And the reply is by bringing down the true consciousness into it and by being quiet, vigilant and conscious in the mind and vital. Finally, the body obeys the mind automatically in these things in which it is formed or trained to obey it. But the relation of the body to the mind is not in all things that of an automatic perfect instrument. The body also has a consciousness of its own. So, last time we discussed how the mind can totally change the body, right? I gave you the example of that student of mine who told me that she always wanted a beauty spot on her upper lip, and she used to keep painting one with kajal. And I told her, but why are you doing that? You already have a beauty spot. So she showed me a childhood picture. She never had it. But because her mind wanted it so much, the body manifested. So in that sense, the body is an obedient instrument of the mind. In the same way, we also manifest what we don't want. So suppose I'm very scared of being ill, and my mind is constantly plagued with illness, I actually attract the illness, because the body understands vibrations, not words. So if you're constantly thinking, I don't want to be ill, it's not listening to don't want to be ill, it's listening to illness, illness, illness. The vibration is of illness. So the more scared you are of being ill, the body is a faithful servant of the mind. So the more the body will fall sick, because you're inviting it. Whatever your mind dwells on, the body will become that. So the mother is saying that the body is not always, it is a slave of the mind, but it's not always a slave. The body also has a consciousness of its own, and though it is a submental, its frequency is below the mind, submental instrument or servant consciousness, it can disobey or fail to obey as well. In many things, in matters of health and illness, for instance, in all automatic functionings, the body acts on its own and is not a servant of the mind. If your heart beating, it's not a servant of the mind, it's automatic. Your breath, if it is fatigued, it can offer a passive resistance to the mind's will. It can cloud the mind with tamas, inertia, dullness, fumes of the subconscious, so that the mind cannot act. The arm lifts, no doubt, when it gets the suggestion, but at first the legs do not obey when they are asked to walk. They have to learn how to leave the crawling attitude and movement and take up the erect ambulatory habit. When you first ask the hand to draw a straight line or to play music, it can't do it and won't do it. It has to be schooled, trained, taught, and afterwards it does automatically what is required of it. All this proves that there is a body consciousness which can do things at the mind's order, but has to be awakened, trained, made a good and conscious instrument. It can even be so trained. Now this we access every time we learn something new, right? Every time we do a new asana, a new dance step, a new martial arts move, we are accessing the body consciousness. We are teaching it something through the mind. It can even be so trained that a mental will or suggestion can cure the illness of the body. This is very important. The body can be so trained that a mental will or suggestion can cure the illness of the body. But we don't take this power of the body to obey seriously enough. We have too much of a negative faith that this illness can only be cured by the doctor. So we keep running to doctors, and sometimes the doctors make us so afraid of illness that we keep falling more and more ill. So my suggestion is, use the doctor only when you need to. Don't run to a doctor at the drop of a hat. Many doctors just fill you with fear for your body, and they shouldn't. Your body is so magical and so robust. But for you, where your health is concerned, doctor is God. So whatever the doctor says, you will believe. So the most important thing in therapeutics is to teach the body to react properly and reject the illness. The body is cured if it has decided to be cured. Now somebody asked, I think it's Sri Aurobindo, I'm not sure whether it's Mother or Sri Aurobindo, but I think it's Sri Aurobindo. Do you think that X could have been cured? X, some person. Most people believe that cancer is incurable in those days. Now of course there's a lot of advance. It is possible in his case, the answer is, but something in him, Sri Aurobindo, but something in him ceased to respond. The last 3 days his body did not respond either to the force put upon it or to the medicine given. Could not the spiritual help be effective irrespective of his response? That's a normal question, right? If you're putting your force on it, then irrespective of his response, you should be able to change things. In cases like this, the entire collaboration of the person concerned is absolutely necessary. So unless the entire, he's not saying collaboration, entire, that means collaboration of the mental consciousness, vital consciousness and the body consciousness. Sometimes with your mind you want to collaborate, but something in your vital is convinced you can't cure yourself. So that could be a resistance. Something in the body consciousness is not open to light. So for the light to work, you have to be integrally open to it. That's what he's saying. But if you know the force that is attacking, so sometimes there's a vital force in the body which every illness is actually a vital force attacking the body, right? I don't mean ghosts and ghouls, not like that. But everything is a play of forces, and Mother says microbes are nothing but solidified ill will. When there's a lot of ill will, you've seen pandemics and all burst out because that ill will solidifies as microbes. So there's a force behind that microbe also. But if that microbe is in a body whose frequency is completely different from the microbe can't cause an illness. Moment the microbe finds a resonance, some matching frequency, that's when it becomes an illness. So the question is, if you know the force that is attacking, then can't you do something about it? He's asking Sri Aurobindo. To detect the force that is attacking is one thing, and to drive it out is another. In these cases, the mind plays a very great part. So if the mind is given to a lot of negative thinking, you know, a mind which is happy to be miserable. Now you'll say, I'm not happy to be miserable, but there are many minds which are actually happy to be miserable. They enjoy the misery. It gives them an identity. I remember years ago I was working with a teenager, and we were doing Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. I was teaching them the first Yoga Sutra, Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which is yoga is the union of the outer being with the inner being, which happens when thoughts stop. So we talked about the possibility of the inner being there within you, and this girl just ran out of my class and never came back for the rest of the class. So then I asked her at the end of it that, why did you do that? So she said, you know, I came to school in a very happy state of mind. Then I remembered we had yoga theory class and I started getting very agitated. So I said, okay, must be a terrible teacher. So then I said, why do you feel agitated? So she had a very difficult setup at home. Her mother was a drug addict, her father was an alcoholic, and like that. So she said that I had made an identity for myself about being miserable and sad. So every yoga class points out to me the possibility that that may not be true, and that rattles me. Now those of us who've not experienced this won't understand it. We won't understand why somebody would feel threatened at the thought of being happy. But actually that's a fact. We actually feel threatened at the thought of being happy sometimes. So if you have a mind like that, then even Gurudev's force, because you're holding on to the negative force, so light can't take it away. So that's what mother constantly says. The best collaboration you can give me is to maintain a cheerful, happy temperament all the time. The moment you're giving shelter to negative thoughts, this is bad, oh my God, oh my, even if I'm right next to you, my light can't enter because that negativity makes a shield. So, what are the conditions for success in such cases where the person is not collaborating? Beautiful answer. Oh, now again I'm confused. Is this Mother or Sri Aurobindo? I can't make out, but it's one of them. Either entire collaboration or complete passivity. So beautiful. Do you all get it? She says either entire collaboration or complete passivity. What does that mean?
Giving in every single step or working with her hand in hand in every
collaboration is working with her, like what the healing meditation we did last class or whatever, where it's a partner effort. Or complete passivity is complete surrender. I'm not thinking about it, I've given this away to you. So either the collaboration should be integral and total, or the surrender should be integral and total. So it's beautiful. These are the two conditions for a cure: entire collaboration or complete passivity. Yeah?
In that case, a complete passivity, it means one shouldn't act at all for even complete.
Not only in physical action, even in your mind, you should not have one negative thought about the condition. You should have complete faith that I've given it to Mother, now she'll handle it, I'm not breaking my head over it. Otherwise, if mentally you're all agitated and you don't even take any action, then that's not very intelligent.
It's the same thing.
What?
In this case.
No, collaboration is actively working with her, like when we brought down the light last time, that was collaboration. I'm also making an effort to open to grace and the grace is pouring. But passivity is I've just surrendered it to you completely. Not only in action, but in my mind, in my vital, at every level. Okay, so now before we go to the next piece, to tell you about the power over of mind over matter, how many of you have heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? You have, right? He's all over the net. He's written these beautiful books called You Are the Placebo and lots of others. He has a very interesting story to him. Once he met with a very, very severe road accident and his spinal cord, not spinal cord, his vertebral column was totally shattered. So there were like bones which were just splintered, and the doctor told him that you'll have to have a surgery which may paralyze you. I think you have to install something called a Harrington rod, which is a rod down your entire spine, which is like ouch. Or you'll be paralyzed for life with the surgery, but if you don't do the surgery, you won't be able to sit up, because if you sit up, the bones which are floating, pressing down, could cause further damage in your spine. So all medical opinions of experts told him you got to have this surgery. But something within him said, I don't want this surgery. I know there's an intelligence out there and I can tap into it and it can heal me. So he's described his experience of healing, and he did heal himself. Without surgery, he totally healed his spine just using the power of his mind. Now, this is totally documented, so it's not made up. So now I'm going to read you his words. He says, maybe I was young and bold at that time in my life, but I decided against the medical model and the expert recommendations. I believe that there's an intelligence, an invisible consciousness within each of us that's the giver of life. It supports, maintains, protects and heals us at every moment. It creates almost 100 trillion specialized cells starting from only 2. You know that, ovum and sperm. From 2 it's making these 100 trillion specialized cells. It keeps our hearts beating hundreds of thousands of times per day, and it can organize hundreds of thousands of chemical reactions in a single cell in every second, among many other amazing functions. I reasoned at the time that if this intelligence was real, and if it willfully, mindfully, and lovingly demonstrated such amazing abilities, maybe I could take my attention off my external world and begin to go within and connect with it, developing a relationship with it. But while I intellectually understood that the body often has the capacity to heal itself, now I had to apply every bit of philosophy that I knew in order to take that knowledge to the next level and beyond, to create a true experience with healing. And since I wasn't going anywhere and I wasn't doing anything except lying face down, horrible situation, you can't lie on your spine, you're lying face down all the time. I decided to do 2 things. First, every day I would put all of my conscious attention on this intelligence within me. Give it a plan, a template, a vision with very specific orders. And then I would surrender my healing to this greater mind that has unlimited power, allowing it to do the healing for me. Okay, this is important. First, he would tell that larger mind, the mind of God, that this is what I want. So, this is how I want my spine healed. And then he would allow it to do the healing for me. He didn't have the illusion that I'm doing the healing. And second, I wouldn't let any thought slip my awareness that I didn't want to experience. So often when we are healing, doubt comes in. Will this really work? This is all my imagination. How can I do it with my mind? The body only doctors can heal. So he made up his mind that he wouldn't let one negative thought come in while he was doing this process. I decided that I would begin every day reconstructing my spine vertebra by vertebra, and I would show this consciousness, if it was paying attention to my effort, what I wanted. So that's this commitment I have to that consciousness, for our purposes to the mother, because for us that consciousness is the mother. I knew that it would demand my absolute presence. That is, for me to be present in the moment, not thinking about or regretting my past, worrying about the future, obsessing about conditions in my external life, or focusing on my pain or symptoms. Just as in any relationship we have with anybody, we all know that when someone is present or not with us, right? Because consciousness is awareness, awareness is paying attention, and paying attention is being present and noticing. This consciousness would be aware of when I was present and when I wasn't. So you're saying a very important thing. We want mother to heal us, to be with us, whatever. Now take a conversation with a friend. If you are not present to what the friend is saying, the friend will also not be present to you, right? The friend will feel that this person's only thinking about herself, she's not only interested in me. And the friend will beyond a point stop communicating with you. It's the same with this consciousness, that if I want it to really communicate with me and heal me, it wants my 100% attention. If I keep getting distracted and wandering into other thoughts, which is normal and natural, but that compromises the healing. So for the 2 hours twice a day, I went within and began creating a picture of my intended result, a totally healed spine. So this is digressing, but I have a friend who had very severe osteoporosis, and when I was with her, I saw the DP on her mobile was a skeleton. So I said, why would you keep a skeleton as your DP? So she said, it reminds me to visualize my bones, and whenever I have nothing to do, how we bring white light from the head, I visualize mother pouring a very strong cement into my body, into my bones, and my bones becoming stronger and stronger. And she did her results, and her osteoporosis was actually better. So in a way, she's doing the same thing that Dr. Joe Dispenza did. So, but you have to be one-pointed. Look at the focus of my friend. Imagine making the DP a skeleton, because she wanted a constant reminder that these are my bones, and I'm constantly going to visualize my bones as being strong and filled with whatever mother is pouring into them. So for 2 hours twice a day, that's 4 hours in a day. But then look at the amount of injury he had. Obviously, he needed that much. For 2 hours twice a day, I went within and began creating a picture of my intended result, a totally healed spine. Of course, I became aware of how unconscious and unfocused I was. We all will. It's ironic. I realized back then that when a crisis or trauma occurs, we spend too much of our attention and energy thinking about what we don't want instead of what we do want. During those first several weeks, I was guilty of this tendency on what seemed like a moment-to-moment basis. In the middle of my meditations on creating the life I wanted with a fully healed spine, I would all of a sudden become aware that I'd been unconsciously thinking about what the surgeons had told me a few weeks prior, that I would probably never walk again. I knew I was stressing over whether I would sell my chiropractic practice while I was step by step mentally rehearsing walking again. I would catch myself imagining what it would be like to live the rest of my life sitting in a wheelchair. You get the idea. So it's like a constant battle. Negative thoughts are coming and you're trying to push them away. So every time I lost my attention and my mind wandered to any extraneous thoughts, I would start from the beginning and do the whole scheme of imagery over again. It was tedious, frustrating. See, if I tell you to imagine a whole spine, you'll do it for 2-3 minutes, and that will also feel very long. Imagine his persistence for 2 hours. He was doing it twice a day. Vertebrum by vertebrum. He was a chiropractor, so obviously he knew what the inside of a spine looks like. But that's not difficult to do. You can Google what any organ looks like. But I reasoned that the final picture I wanted the observer in me to notice had to be clear. So he's saying a very important thing. I wanted to show God the picture I wanted to create. So every visualization is showing God, this is what I want, through your visualization. It's a very beautiful practice. But I reasoned that the final picture that I wanted the observer in me to notice had to be clear, unpolluted and uninterrupted. In order for this intelligence to accomplish what I hoped, what I knew it was capable of doing from start to finish, I had to stay conscious and not go unconscious. Finally, after 6 weeks of battling with myself, and making the effort to be present with this consciousness, I was able to make it through my inward reconstruction process without having to stop and start over from the beginning. I remembered the day I did it for the first time. It was like hitting a tennis ball on the sweet spot. There was something right about it. It clicked. So after 6 weeks, it took him 6 weeks to get the kind of focus he wanted. And the day he did it without interruption, something clicked. And I'm sure that's when his healing would have begun. I clicked and I felt complete, satisfied and whole. For the first time, I was truly relaxed and present in mind and body. There was no mental chatter, no analyzing, no thinking, no obsessing, no trying. Something lifted and a kind of peace and silence prevailed. It was as if I no longer cared about all of the things I should have been worried about in my past or future. And of course, he was totally off his wheelchair. Science can't explain these things yet. But it's something all of us can really do. But we have to get rid of the negative faith. Negative faith is the fact that I can't do it. He did it. I can't do it. I'll try, but at the back of my mind, there's a voice which will say, nahi, it won't happen. I'll have to go to the doctor. I'll have to do this. In fact, you were sharing something interesting last time, right? Why will you come here? Huh? Come so that everyone can hear. Just introduce yourself before you speak.
Hello, myself Swaroop, and last time I was
Just keep it near.
yeah, fine. Last time I was sharing that it's been 2 years that we in our family we don't consume medicines unless it's a wound.
How many in your family?
4 we are.
So 4 of you
Parents.
for 2 years haven't touched any medicine.
No, unless it's a wound, like we met an accident and we just had an injury. So for that day we had something for like Dettol or something, or we had to add one pill or something. But then in a day or two the entire wound heals. Like we make it heal.
So what
It
do
will
you
not.
do? This whole family is into mother and Sri
Yeah.
Aurobindo also.
So we get down, like we call upon the energy. We sit in our separate rooms. We like call upon the energy and it heals. It just heals.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So this is something which is really available to all of us, but we just don't believe in it. It's easy and convenient to get a tablet, no? But a tablet, allopathy will inevitably cure one thing. Mother's written that. It will create a problem somewhere else. It will cure this but create a problem somewhere else. So all of us who are pill happy, please stop it. Don't think just to get sleep I'll pop an Allegra in my mouth. It has side effects. I'll just take syrup and go to sleep, cough syrup. It's very wrong to do that. You're abusing and not respecting the intelligence of the body. If you have a headache, bear it. Don't just pop a Crocin. I'm not saying don't take it at all. If you really need it, take it. But don't just pop a pill, because even a paracetamol like Crocin, if you Google it, it will have side effects. There's no allopathic medicine that comes totally without side effects. So yeah, that's what this whole story reinforces. Now Savitri, now this is referring to the power of the mind. So it starts with it. It can immortalize a moment's work. A simple fiat of its thinking force, the casual pressure of its light ascent, can liberate the energy dumb and pent within its chambers of mysterious trance. It makes the body sleep a puissant arm, holds still the breath and beating of the heart. This is all the power of the mind. The mind can control the breath, the beating of the heart, while the unseen is found, the impossible done. Communicates without means the unspoken thought. You may not speak it, but your mind, whatever you're thinking, it gets communicated to the person. So I keep telling you that if you want a good relationship with the person, try not to think one negative thought about the person, because Even if you're very sweet to the person but you're thinking negative thoughts, mother says the energy of that reaches the person. So communicates without means the unspoken thought. It moves events by its bare silent will. Acts at a distance without hands or feet. Thoughts act at a distance without hands or feet. Okay, now this is again, I'm not sure Mother or Sri Aurobindo, one of them. Human beings have a much more delicate and uncertain health than animals because their mind intervenes and disturbs the equilibrium. Animals, by and large, if there's a natural calamity or something, they fall sick. But if you map the life of an animal and a human being, an animal won't fall so sick because it doesn't have a mind which can make the body sick. The body left to itself has a sure instinct. For example, never will the body, if left to itself, eat when it doesn't need to or take something that will be harmful to it. And it will sleep when it needs to sleep. It will act when it needs to act. The instinct of the body is very sure. It is the vital and the mind which disturb it, the one by its desires and caprices and the other by its principles, dogmas, laws and ideas. And unfortunately in civilization as it is understood, with the kind of education given to children, the sure instinct of the body is completely destroyed. That's why our teenagers are such a sick generation. I keep telling them that what your generation is getting are degenerative illnesses. If you look at it in a medical book, they'll come with old age. You're getting all these at your age because you've moved so far away from the natural instinct of the body. The natural instinct of the body will recoil from packaged foods, from Maggi, from constant sugar rush of chocolates and cold drinks. But because we've lost touch with that, our body craves for all this. And that's why we are paying a cost. You know that, right? Amongst your friends, do you know, I'm talking about the people who are below 30, how many of your friends you know have spondylitis or neck ache? You do. How many of you, and it's a degenerative disease, you shouldn't be getting it at such a young age. How many have high cholesterol? You do know? You do know it? I mean, below 30, it's unheard of. Previous generations, you'll get it after 45, 50, like that. Heart conditions, so many of, I mean, it's ridiculous. And you were born with a perfectly normal, healthy body, but because the education has been so faulty and maybe you were not checked in the diet you were given as a child and then you rebelled when whatever, you are abusing a perfectly healthy body and making it sick. But your body is so resilient that if you reverse your habits, it will bounce back. Just 2 months if you reverse your habits, that's why I mean nature cures are so effective, right? You know Joanne who had come, the girl with curly hair who comes often. So she was diagnosed with appendix and she didn't want to do a surgery. So she consulted my yoga teacher and he put her on a diet of only water and some oil drops. And she did it for a week, only water, or some days, I'm not sure if it was a week. But then when she went for her sonography, there was no appendicitis. It had healed. You don't even need to go so far. You just go on a very clean diet of only fruit for a week. All aches and pains will go away.
A client of mine just had dengue fever and she didn't take any medicine. So she's all about natural remedies and like, you know, creating, like having, home remedies. So she did like onion wraps on her feet. She made some kadhas at home. I asked her about the different things she did and she didn't have a single pill.
But dengue, you can't take any medicine in any case.
But the thing is, even with her food, she was having water, like very, very little. She was not able to have much water and fruit, only fruit for the first 4 days.
If you're ill, just go on a fruit diet, your body will heal itself of anything. but then eat enough fruit. Yeah.
Is there more to it than that? Because I know, for instance, like Steve Jobs, when he was really ill,
Loudly, Malu.
I remember like Steve Jobs when he was really ill at one point had gone on like an all-fruit diet, like in an attempt to cure himself without any allopathic medication. But obviously in that case it wasn't effective. So is it that in combination with other things?
See, of course, your mind has to cooperate. All this will help, but if your mind is constantly churning out negative thoughts, it negates everything. So, I'm now speaking the opposite language. I have another ex-student who's born into a family of doctors, and while her whole family is very health conscious and they eat all the right foods, she's a total junkie. She lives on junk food, and when they did a medical test, her parameters were the best because her mind is the best. She's always happy, and so I mean it's a combination of everything put together. So an animal, it will sleep when it needs to sleep, it will act when it needs to act. The instinct of the body is very sure. It is the vital and the mind which disturb it, the one by its desires and caprices, and the other by its principles, dogmas, laws and ideas. And unfortunately, in civilization as it is understood, with the kind of education given to children, this sure instinct of the body is completely destroyed, and it is the rest that dominate. And naturally things happen as they do. One eats things that are harmful, one doesn't take rest when one needs to, or sleeps too much when it is not necessary, or does things one should not do and spoils one's health completely. So that's another thing with this generation. Most of you don't sleep before 12 or 1, and that is the worst thing you can do for your health, because mother says that 1 hour of sleep before midnight gives you as much rest as 2 after midnight. That's proven. So also your body follows the cycle of the sun. Typically the sun is supposed to be setting till midnight. So if you sleep before that sunset, your body automatically is in harmony, your hormone cycles are in harmony, everything is in harmony. But if you sleep late, that syncing of your body clock with the sun clock gets destroyed, and that's the reason for half the illnesses. Also, not only do you all sleep late, but you don't sleep enough. You seem to think 4-5 hours is enough, but it's not, because there are certain repair processes in your body which can only happen during sleep. That's why sometimes if you have a very bad cough and cold, morning you'll wake up, you'll be better. Or if you have an upset stomach, morning you'll wake up, you'll be better, because through night your body, his healing mechanism has kick-started. So sleep is very important, and that's where many of us are going wrong. We are not sleeping enough, we are sleeping at the wrong times, and we are eating things that harm our body rather than help our body. But we can reverse it all very quickly. If you decide to change it, your body is such a beautiful instrument. In 2 months, it will be different. Not even 2 months. The younger you are, the faster it heals. In 6 weeks, it will be different. So, by its very nature, the body is a docile and faithful servant. Unfortunately, it rarely has the capacity of discernment it ought to have with regard to its masters, the mind and the vital. It obeys them blindly at the cost of its own well-being. It must be freed from this tyranny, and this can be done only through a constant union with the psychic center of the being. The body has a wonderful capacity for adaptation and endurance, and it is able to do so many more things than one usually imagines. If instead of the ignorant and despotic masters that now govern it, it is ruled by the central truth of the being, you will be amazed at what it's capable of doing. Mother's words. The experience I've been having for months now, especially since this year, is the shift of the consciousness. Instead of the consciousness being in the ordinary state, if you shift it, I'm speaking of the consciousness of the body, if it is directly tuned into the divine in a few, sometimes it is in a second, sometimes it's in minutes, but in a few minutes the ailment absolutely disappears. And if you do this, you go backwards a little, it comes back immediately. So I know someone, actually somebody sitting here, but I won't name her. She's got this wonderfully receptive body where when she meditates and connects with the mother, all aches and pains completely disappear. And they go away for 1 or 2 hours. And then when her mind kicks in, it's like nothing, no healing had happened. And this happens back and forth throughout the time. But it's so wonderful that her body has this capacity to heal. The moment she really connects with the divine and remembers the divine, all the aches and pains in her body disappear. And I've heard her say this over years. So it's not something we are reading, I've actually seen it happen. So that is an experience I've had more than 100 times, even with such things such as a toothache, even sharp pains in one place. The experience is had by the body. What is the experience Mother is talking about? When the body is directly turned to the divine, when it's totally open to the light. Then when it turns away from the divine and that old mental chatter starts, the pains come back. It is very interesting because it is an experience had in every detail and every stage. The first thing it found was not to think of the ailment, not to be occupied with it, but that's the most important. Normally, if we have an ailment, back of our mind, we are constantly thinking of it. When will I go? Who do I go to? How do I cure it? But Mother's saying the first step is don't think of the ailment. Not to be occupied with it. That is the first stage. Afterwards, it found that when it was occupied with something else, it subsided very much. Afterwards, it had the experience that if someone comes near it who knows you are ailing, it comes back. So Mother found that when her body opened to the light, the ailment went away. But when somebody comes in expecting you to be ill, and we know that thoughts travel, that person's thought would enter her and the pain would come back. So if you're with someone who expects you to be ill, that illness grows. And finally, it had the repeated and absolute, all that is very interesting, lots of little verifications every minute. And finally, it had the repeated and absolutely convincing proof that as soon as it concentrates on the divine, it enters into relation because it feels, it has the sensation in the cells. As soon as it concentrates without being concerned with the ailing point, it is better not to be concerned with it. It disappears totally to the point that there are times like that, there are things that hurt. So the first effect is not to feel the pain anymore. There were times in the beginning when it asked for intervention, the body, and it had an effect, and there was a feeling of a struggle, resistance. It took a little time, but when it managed to concentrate without demanding, you see, simply giving oneself to the divine, then it does not think about it. The body itself no longer thinks about the pain, but after a certain time it sees that it is completely gone. It wasn't thinking of it, there is no longer anything. That experience has been repeated hundreds of times for all sorts of different things. Through repeated daily experiences, I am convinced more and more, Mother's words, that every disorder in the body and all illnesses are a result of doubt in the cells or a certain group of cells. They doubt the concrete reality of the divine. They doubt the divine presence in them. They doubt that they are divine. So Mother's done path-breaking work on the mind of cells. Satprem has written a very beautiful book called The Mind of Cells, where Mother's words on her experiments with the mind of cells. So they doubt the concrete reality of the divine. As soon as you succeed in infusing into them the certitude of the divine, the disorder disappears. So relating to what I shared at the beginning of class with my knee pain, in a way, when you touch that part and you keep repeating the name of Mother and Sri Aurobindo into that part, reminding that part that it is divine, so in a way I can't say that we have access to mind of cells. That's a lot of work in consciousness, but who knows, maybe a window opens and the mind of cells absorbs that faith. And Mother says that often illnesses is doubt or negative thinking. Like each cell is vibrating with a particular thought formation. If it's a negative thought formation, that cell falls sick. If you can infuse that cell with a positive thought formation, the sickness disappears. Sri Aurobindo, it is not a theory but a constant experience and very tangible when it comes, that there is above the consciousness in the physical body a great supporting extension, as it were, of peace, light, power and joy. So he's emphasizing it's not a theory. Above all our heads, there is a consciousness supporting the body of peace, light, power and joy that we can become aware of and bring it down into the physical consciousness. And that at first for a time, afterwards more frequently and for a longer time, in the end for good can remain and change the whole basis of our daily consciousness. This is the key to his integral yoga, opening ourselves to the overhead consciousness and bringing it down to heal everything, whether it's emotions, thoughts, physical body. Even before we are aware of it above, we can suddenly feel it coming down and entering us. We may feel it like a ripple of goose flesh flowing down, or some sensation when we are not even conscious of it because it's communicating with us all the time. The need to have an aspiration towards it, make the mind quiet, so that what we call the opening is rendered possible. In this yoga, the whole principle is to open oneself to the divine influence. It is there above you, and if you can once become conscious of it, you have then to call it down into you. It descends into the mind, into the body as peace, as light, as a force that works, as the presence of the divine with or without form, as Ananda. But one has this consciousness, one has to have faith and aspire for the opening. Aspiration, call, prayer are forms of one and the same thing and are all effective. You can take the form that comes to you the easiest. Question: what is the exact way of feeling that we belong to the divine and the divine is acting in us? I think these are the Mother's words. She says, you must not feel that with your head, because you may think so, but it is something vague. Think with my head that I belong to the divine and the divine is protecting me. So thinking it with the head is an idea. You must feel it with your sense feeling. You know, Mother is so accurate with her words. It's so beautiful what she's saying. You must feel it with your sense feeling. You have to sense it. Do you get what she's trying to say? Not just think it here. Naturally, one begins by wanting it with the mind, because that is the first thing that understands. And then one has an aspiration here pointing to the heart with a flame which pushes you to realize it. But if you want it to be truly the thing, well, you must sense it. Aspire for it, want it. Try to be less and less selfish, but not in the sense of becoming nice to other people or forgetting yourself, not that. But have less and less the feeling that you are a person, a separate entity, something existing in itself, isolated from the rest. And then above all, it is that inner flame, that aspiration, that need for the light. It is a kind of, how to put it, luminous enthusiasm. Again, I just love her word. She hits the nail. A luminous enthusiasm, a shining enthusiasm that seizes you. Can you imagine a luminous enthusiasm that seizes you to realize the divine, to feel the divine inside you? It is an irresistible need to melt away, to give oneself, to exist only in the divine. When one aspires for something, if at the same time one knows that the aspiration will be heard and answered in the best way possible, that establishes a quietude in the being, a quietude in its vibrations. Whilst if there's a doubt and uncertainty, if one does not know what will lead one to the goal, or if one will ever reach it, and so on, then one gets disturbed, and that usually creates a sort of whirlwind. So she's saying a very important thing. We all try to practice aspiration, right? Aspiration in the heart. But it's mixed. I want this, but will I really get it? I want to feel the divine, but will I really feel the divine? Will it really happen to me? It happens to others, but will it happen to me? So it's a very mixed aspiration. So she says, when you aspire, aspire without a doubt, because she says every sincere prayer is heard and answered. So if there's sincerity in your prayer and sincerity in your call, don't doubt that you'll reach the goal. That's what she's emphasizing here. Yeah?
It's actually an experience I had when I was in Pondy earlier this year. And I told you that my whole time there was about learning to aspire. And I had actually sprained...
One sec, I'd like people to hear you. So just repeat, or come here, no Shivani, that's simpler.
So I had sprained my foot when I was in Pondy. I fell off some stairs, and it had just happened where I was staying. So it was in my room itself, and I had fallen, and I just managed to get myself on the bed, and it was really bad. And I was just thinking, I was sitting there for 5 minutes, and I was just thinking, I need to walk to the washroom, I need to get the balm from my suitcase, and I just wasn't being able to, and just something clicked in me, and I said to the mother, I just said it to her, I was like, see, I know it's going to hurt, but just give me the courage to get up and do it. I just have to get up, pick it up, and come back to the bed. So that's all I need to do. And it was not even it didn't even take me a second. I got up, it was hurting, but like, I wasn't wincing, nothing. It was so, as if like nothing happened. Like, I can't even explain. I got up, I got the thing, I came back, and that was that. Like, it was just the simplest thing.
Aspiration didn't have a doubt.
Not at all. I feel like that's what we were talking about, the subtle aspiration. Like, aspirations have to be really, really subtle, right? Not in a selfish, I want way. But I had already decided that she'll do it for me. So I knew that she would do it. And I was just like, okay, now come on, help me do this. I have to do this, and just help me do it. So the doubt of it not happening was not there only. I knew it would happen. I just needed to call on it. And that was, just the best thing. Thank you.
So now we'll just skip a little because I want to come to the last part. It's very beautiful, very, very beautiful. I hadn't read it till last week, where Mother gives 3 steps to heal all disorder. So we'll understand it and we'll do it. It's really a very powerful practice. Okay, so pay attention. Now suppose that due to some illness or other, you have some pain at a particular spot. At that moment, all will depend, as I said at the beginning, on the approach most familiar to you. But we can give an example. You're in pain, in great pain. It hurts very much and you're suffering a lot. First point, do not dwell on the pain by telling yourself, oh, how it hurts. Oh, this pain is unbearable. Oh, it's getting worse and worse. I will never be able to endure it, etc. All that sort of thing. The more you go on thinking like that and feeling like that, the more your attention is concentrated on it, the more the pain increases remarkably. So the first point, to control yourself not to do that. Or even if you're not thinking about the pain, you're frantically thinking, how do I get rid of this? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I? Just don't think about it so much. That's what she's saying. Don't resist it. Don't think about it so much. So the first point, to control yourself enough not to do that. Second point, as I said, it depends on your habits. If you know how to concentrate, to be quiet, if you can bring into yourself a certain peace of any kind, it may be a mental peace, it may be a vital peace, it may be a psychic peace. They have different values and qualities. That's an individual question. You try to realize within yourself a state of peace, or you attempt to enter into consciousness, into conscious contact with the force of peace. Suppose you succeed to a greater or lesser extent, then you can draw the peace into yourself and bring it down into your solar plexus. For we are not talking about inner states, we are talking about your physical body. And from there, direct it very calmly, very slowly, so to speak, but very persistently towards the place where the pain is more or less acute, and fix it there. This is very good. This is not always enough. So what she's saying is, bring the peace down but direct it to the solar plexus, because the solar plexus in yoga, we have the Surya chakra here, no? But Mother's not talking about that. Solar plexus is the center of physical consciousness. So it's like this, how do I say it? You see a dog, it hears frequencies much beyond its decibel range, right? But we don't hear it because we don't have that higher frequency for our range. So if there is a vibration of a very high frequency and I'm not at that frequency, I won't feel it. You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes the frequencies of the heart or overhead are too much above the body frequency. But the solar plexus has a frequency very resonant and close to the body frequency. So if you bring the light down to the solar plexus and from there guide it to wherever it needs healing, Mother says that works. So that's the second step. The third step is, if you can add to this movement a trusting surrender to grace, I guarantee that within 5 minutes your suffering will disappear. If you know how to do it, you may try and you may not succeed and yet not succeed. You must know how to try again and again and again till you succeed. See, don't do it once and say it's not working. Dr. Joe Dispenza, he tried it for 6 weeks till he hit the sweet spot. Then he healed himself. So Mother's saying, if it doesn't work once, don't give up. Just try again and again and again till it succeeds. So let me sum up the process, Adya. So Mother's given us 3 steps for healing any disorder. The first step is not to keep thinking about the pain, not to keep thinking frantically about how will I cure it, where will I go, oh I wish it away, because that solidifies it. Second step, she says, call down the peace from over your head, but not directly to the part, call it down into your solar plexus, because the solar plexus has frequencies closest to the body. So from the solar plexus, you can send the light to the body the easiest. Third step, you have complete surrender and faith that even that body part is light. It's light which is distorted, but nonetheless it's light. We started with this at the beginning, no? I told you about my knee, where you remind the body part that it also is divine. Okay? So now we are in a very special place. Let's give it our best. Let's see what Mother does for each of us. So sit tall. Put your right hand at the center of your chest, left palm over it, and take your awareness behind where your palms touch to what we call the psychic center or the heart center. May help to see an image of the Mother or whatever is your highest reverence, or just the sun. Or if you're not a visual person, you don't need to use images. Sri Aurobindo says in his yoga, there are as many paths as there are sadhaks. So for each one, something else will work. See what works for you to connect you into your heart space. So just keep going deeper and deeper within with an aspiration. An aspiration which is like a luminous enthusiasm in Mother's words. Something that wants to melt, to give itself. So keep going deeper and deeper into your heart space. See if you feel a warmth or a tingling or a smile or just a sense of peace. And even if you don't, as Mother says, try again and again till you feel it. Whenever you feel it, relax your hands or keep them there, whatever you feel like doing. Now, as you inhale, enter your heart space as if you're entering a lift and go up to the top of your head and above. And exhale, feeling the overhead space. The space that Sri Aurobindo says is not just theory. About the physical body, all of us have a space of light, joy, peace and power. Remove any negative faith that I won't feel it or it's not there. With aspiration and a positive faith, climb up to the overhead space till you feel it, like a pressure or a tingling or a coolness, or just a sense which you can't define. Now take your right hand and put it on the solar plexus If you don't know where it is, I'm resting my hand there, just below the sternum, and left palm over it. Cupped palms, relaxed palms. Now inhale, enter the heart and climb to the overhead space of peace. Exhale, bring the peace down to the solar plexus which you are touching. Inhale, enter the heart and climb up. Exhale, invite the peace into the solar plexus for the next 1 or 2 minutes. Now leave one hand on the solar plexus, the other hand touch whatever part of your body that you want to. Inhale, from the heart go to the solar plexus. Exhale, carry the peace from the solar plexus to that part. Inhale, enter the heart and go to the solar plexus. From the solar plexus, go to whichever part as you exhale, inviting the peace from there into the part. So that's the second step. Third step, you can continue to touch that part with your hand and just repeat Om into it, or Om Tat Sat Jyotir Arvinda, or Om Shri Aurobindo Ma, whatever is your mantra of power. If none of these are your mantra of power, just the word peace. Whatever God is to you, the word saying that into that part, as if reminding it that it is actually light, that same one light that makes up everything, that it too is divine. And like Dr. Joe Dispenza did, visualize it healing. See a picture, as Dr. Joe Dispenza said, I wanted to tell that consciousness how I saw that part healed, and then let it do the healing. So visualize that part in whatever way completely healed. As you say the word into it, may help to inhale with the aspiration in the heart and exhale, say the word into that part. 10. With this, we'll end our session so that if you want to continue meditating, you can. Fold your hands in a namaste. We conclude with 3 Oms.